HBCU pride. I believe in HBCU culture, and I believe in HBCU sports. This is what our show is about. HBCU pride with Tim McKain and Derrick Hall. Hello. You're listening to Bleav N HBCU'S with Tim McKain and Derrick Hall.
We believe. I'm
How you
Derrick
doing today,
Hall.
Derrick?
I'm doing all right. How you doing today, Mr. Tim McKain?
I'm doing well, man. We got a lot of sports topics to talk about today, including some of the current events for HBCUs. Hey, did you hear about Corey Cooper? You remember we talked about the NFL and its relationship with HBCUs. So recently, Shaw's Corey Cooper, he played 2 years at Shaw University under the football program there, and now he's been invited to be a part of the NFL's, let me make sure I have this right, developmental program. It says Shaw, and this is according to HBCUsports.com, Shaw University former student athlete Corey Cooper will participate in the 2021 National Football League events and business and club business development experience-ship, the school announced Wednesday. I would like to thank Coach Hester and Ms. Lake for contacting me about the opportunity. This is a very exciting time, and I won't take it for granted. I feel like this opportunity will further my skills in the football world and will hopefully lead me into the path of becoming an NFL general manager one day. Derrick, what do you think of the HBCU's relationship with NFL, and what do you think of these programs potentially making brothers like Corey Cooper the general manager?
That's big. That's big for them to have the opportunity from an HBCU, because usually you don't really have the opportunity to go into a NFL work environment. You usually got to know somebody, or it's family. Like NFL works as it's really a family-owned business.
Yeah.
Like the teams get passed down from generation to generations. So it's kind of hard to really get in the building, and also it's like any other job. People only hire people that they know, and that will have their back in a time of need.
Right. Or or it's like a wave, or it's like, let's say a coach is like winning, or players like the Steve Nash one. I mean, you're right. Steve Nash was kind of hired just because he knew the guy, but he had the experience of being a great player and a great floor general. But I also think you think of like Cliff Kingsbury. Like, did he know the people there, or was he just the wave of teaching?
Kingsbury was just a Sean McVay lookalike. He was just one of those guys that, he'd been around Sean McVay a few times. I think they're close friends.
Yeah.
So he just like, maybe he can think the same as Sean McVay, but we'll teach his own with Kingsbury. But like, this big for Corey. Of course, that's like Corey Cooper. Corey Cooper is big for Corey Cooper to be part of the NFL Event Club development program. If that was back in my day, I definitely would have jumped on that too, because I had high aspirations to being a general manager. And general managers, it's not a degree that goes straight a general manager. General managers are usually friends that they know from the time, or family members, or usually the team owner as well. So that's big. I know he's gonna do great jobs there. Like, the hustle. If you know football, you show them what they want, and it's always gonna be there, man. That's a big, man. I'm really, really excited to see what Corey has in store.
I am very excited as well, man. And you're right. Like, there's only so many jobs that you can have playing NFL. And, you got to be able to think about yourself, even as a player, what would life be like not playing football, but still being able to play to actually operate in a sport that you still love, and you're not playing it, but you're around it still. You still have that connection to the sport. Right. So I think that's pretty key. In other news, Peyton Manning is giving scholarships to HBCUs. Actually, it said here, it's according to HBCU Sports as well. Through Manning's Payback Foundation, the now retired NFL great has reportedly endowed 6 scholarships at 4 HBCUs in Louisiana and others in Tennessee. One of the scholarships was named in honor of former Grambling State quarterback Doug Williams. Another was Harold Carmichael. I think that he was a wide receiver for the Eagles. He was about 6'7", 6'8". He would have been a great tight end in today's game. He would have been like a Rob Gronkowski type. I think he would have done well. Wilma Rudolph, the great Olympic sprinter, also that's going to be in Dow Scholarship for Tennessee State University. Fisk, Xavier, Dillard, just to name a few. So that's some. What do you think of that, Derek?
Well, that's big for Peyton to do that. He doesn't have any ties to HBCU, but I guess Peyton with strong white men like Peyton that understand the culture, that's trying to understand the culture and trying to better for overall people. That's huge. And Peyton being from New Orleans, I don't want to say he knows what HBCU is.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure, he had been from New Orleans and been in Knoxville. New Orleans has Southern University. That's like in Baton Rouge, maybe like an hour away from New Orleans. So I'm pretty sure he has heard or know of HBCUs in Louisiana. And Tennessee speaks for itself. Fisk, TSU, just to name a few. So that's big, man. So what we got those scholarships? Hey, let's go do that. Don't half step. Go make it happen.
Yeah, facts. So this is something that so last week we went into the one of our, we kind of debated a little bit about the greatest dynasties in basketball era. But we're actually getting into your era. This is your expertise. This is your expertise in football.
Right.
Football, the greatest dynasties in football history. And HBCUs has an extreme heavy tradition in HBCU programs from Grambling to Jackson State to Tennessee State, just to name a few. And North Carolina A&T actually of recent. They've won 3 championships in 4 years, man. They won 41 games, lost 7. They're on the come up too. Like, when you think about some of the greatest HBCU eras, football eras of all time, who are some of those teams that you think about, some of those players?
So when you say eras, right, it's a few things pop up. Like, are we talking about wins and losses, championships, the most players drafted? Because you can have the most players drafted but don't win because of subpar coaching.
Right.
So when you say that, but I think the best era I would probably have to say is I would probably go with Grambling. Because Grambling, I think they had Doug Williams, right? I think Doug Williams, Grambling, first black quarterback. And, that G on that helmet, iconic. Even though it's replicated nowadays, nothing stays the same. Nothing let you keep. But I would have to go with Grambling in the early 70s? Early decade, when the 72 and 77, Grambling, there was 4 titles in 6 years. And, you had to do that first just because of what came out, what transpired, like having the black quarterback, first ever black quarterback. He changed the world. And that's how Grambling as a university changed the world. Like, we can go get some of these black quarterbacks.
Yeah, man. Grambling has a rich tradition of victories, of championships. But for me, man, it's just like, it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of great players, of great coaches, of wins, of losses. But also it's history. Because when you think about it, man, in some ways, I kind of compare HBCU football and the legacy that it carries similar to the Negro Leagues. And what I mean by that is it has that similar greatness to it, but a lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people don't recognize it. And there was an ownership that African Americans had, when it came to winning championships. And then when you think about the desegregation of schools, and you would see certain teams like Grambling and Jackson State still win, even with integration happening. But I just want to recognize the fact that these HBCU, a lot of these great HBCU programs were before integration.
Right.
And when it was, and when schools were segregated, you saw more African Americans in HBCUs killing the game. And I think we should recognize them as well, because those players weren't always drafted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the NFL didn't look their way really until like the 50s or 60s. So sometimes you can't always rate HBC, because if you're looking at it from like a NFL standpoint and professional standpoint, you're like, well, they weren't drafted, but they might have been in that era just as good, but they might not have been given the same opportunity to play in the NFL. But I would just say that you're right in a lot of ways. Grambling is right up there. I feel like you can definitely go into Florida A&M. You know, I say North Carolina A&T just because, I mean, that's where a lot of my family rides with. You got Southern, you have Tennessee State, Ed Too Tall Jones, Cowboys. I got to rep the Cowboys, man. That's my squad. Ed Too Tall Jones, he was a captain over there. And Morgan State, they're kind of like a team who won more so in the segregation era.
Right. Yeah. And then, I think it was a little bit different during the segregation era because, black athletes went to black colleges and, they promoted those black colleges more than they promoted the white schools at times, when you can sell out Yankee Stadium with Morgan State and Florida A&M. When you can sell out stadiums like that, that's big. I would love for them to start bringing that back. Just having HBCUs play in big stadiums for a while. We're getting like a Howard, and like we used to go to Howard and Hampton played in Chicago and Soldier Field. That's big, but it's big for the schools to do it. So most of the students will go to a big city and spend money in that city. But for us, let's promote it more. And I think people from other colleges, like, I'm gonna go see the Hampton Howard game in Giant Stadium, or in Washington Stadium, which is in DC, or because it's powerful like that. I think if they can start doing things more like that, promoting more, it'll show they love HBCUs, and it will give some of those student athletes in high school like, oh, I can still play in a big stadium at an HBCU, and still get TV time at an HBCU. So,
I mean, and you're seeing it now. And Derrick, what do you think about this? Because now in this generation, more than ever, we're seeing players take control, take charge. So because we're seeing more players take charge, you could these athletes could be like, you know what? People want to see the best sports available. If the top players in football, in basketball, or whatever sport, if they decide, hey, look, we're gonna be, let's say 50% of the top black athletes go to HBCUs.
right.
They're gonna have to be like, yo, that's where a lot of the talent is. We gotta see what's going on with the HBCUs. And I just think programs that the NFL is doing, like what we talked about earlier last week, how I think we should influence some of these schools. I think HBCUs, they should target elementary schools, public middle schools, high schools, and just tell them about the HBCU culture.
That could be cool, but it's also that parents to like, yo, teach your kids some history too as well. Like, yo, it ain't just about us telling, it's about a family. Most 10 times out of 10, like, if you hear from your family first, you'll be more inclined to check it out for yourself.
Yeah, man, you're right though. But some, in a lot of our culture, and we discussed it, some people just don't respect history.
Right.
They don't always respect history, and they have a low opinion of HBCU culture and HBCU sports because they're not familiar with it. They don't understand it. But I feel like if we were to open up the door, if we would open their eyes to it, people would definitely recognize. If we would ask, okay, Derrick, if I ask you, okay, you went to an HBCU, you played at HBCU, what was your experience like at a HBCU, and how did it change your life? What would you say?
It changed my life for the better. it made me the man I am today. It taught me so much about. I think when you grow up, like they don't teach you on history in high school, and you don't really learn about it. Like you go throughout, like I read this, I read that, right? When you go to HBCU, kind of forces you to know your history about the Black history and American history and the college. Like who went here? And who went to all these different colleges? And you see like doing shows like Different World, they promote HBCU, Martin promoted HBCUs. Will Smith from the Fresh Prince promoted HBCU. So I think it make you think like, this is a smart decision. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows we have, the best culture at school. Like you can go to HBCU and feel at home and not worry about I'm a freshman. I'm homesick. You get you a great group of friends that's gonna hold you down and be there for you. That's what HBCUs taught me.
That's amazing, man. You're right, bro. Like when it comes to like the marketing aspect and when it comes to like putting it out into popular culture, you're right. We had shows like that, A Different World, Martin, Fresh Prince, and we're seeing it a little bit in basketball. You would see Zion Williamson with an HBCU shirt on or a jacket on. You see Chris Paul rocking out different shoes. But I will say this, in our TV shows, we don't see that same thing when it comes. We don't have those same shows.
Right, exactly.
What I mean? Like we don't have those different worlds. We don't have those Fresh Princes. We don't have those any of these shows, Martins. We don't have these Martins to really like promote some of these HBCU programs like we used to. And I think, it's as much as we're trying to build as a community now, I think that we need to create our own shows that reinforce an HBCU culture in a way that people are like, that's kind of cool. I want to go to HBCU.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, with Will bringing back the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Peacock, it could be something there. But, I think it takes like Will Smith for somebody like, let's do a documentary on HBCUs or do a show based on HBCUs. Like BET did that for a while with College Hill, shows like that. That I was in tune, like, College Hill, like,
Wow, bro.
And, my first time visiting, because they have Virginia State on, my first time visiting Virginia State, right? And I just remember all those things that BET showed. I just watched it, like, I'm going to go here, this was this, I remember this, that, and third. Like, that was amazing. But, we need to bring some of that stuff back. Like, it could work, man. Have another reality show like everybody else get reality shows. Get an HBCU a reality show that's going to show you the culture.
And why not? I mean, they have reality shows of sports. Why not have a reality show of an HBCU? I feel like that would be amazing. And I think that would be really fun to see it from a historically black college perspective, seeing a football player who decided not to go to PWI, go to an HBCU, and then you see his experience through his own eyes of what it's like going to an HBCU and killing it. But next week, Derrick, because just like we're talking about the greatest HBCU programs in football,
right?
When I was doing research for this, bro, one of the things that I found interesting was the coaching battles. Okay, the coaching battles that you see between Eddie Robinson and the rest of the people who he played against or he coached against. And so next week, bro, and I want everybody listening to this, we're going to be discussing the greatest coaches in HBCU history, and then we're going to look at things from head to head.
What are we tackling? Because you're tackling, football first, basketball. Football first, but okay.
We're rolling football first, man, because, Eddie Robinson hated some of his opponents.
But you gotta hate some of your opponents when you're trying to win.
Yeah, man, you're right. The Greek Freak had that same mentality. He wouldn't shake hands with people in the All-Star game and stuff like that. Jimmy Butler's got that.
Yeah, Jimmy Buckets.
Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets. Yeah, you're right. He's cold as ice, man. Did you see that block?
I see that block. I seen Big Bang with the block. I'm like, oh, okay.
Bruh. Oh my goodness, bro. When I saw that block, it was like he could almost broke his hand.
Yeah, he almost did, but if he hit on the rim, he would have broke his hand. But since he didn't, it was all good.
That's toughness, and we were talking about this off air. That's the kind of toughness that the Clippers don't have. What Miami Heat has. Miami Heat has toughness. You know what? That's the HBCU toughness. When I saw it, I said, that's HBCU. That's right there. That's the HBCU toughness right there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But hey, everyone, thank you for listening to Bleav in HBCU's with Tim McKain.
Believe.
Peace, y'all.